Hello, everyone. This is Liz, live from the Derry Public Library's New Hampshire room, and I am here today with your recommendations for Hulu and Prime. As I said in the description, hopefully they'll be normal. There's never a guarantee with me. If anything, there's a guarantee for something strange. So we're going to start out with Prime and a new movie. So unfortunately, this looks like it's going to be the new norm for a lot of films, especially not big budget features. They're probably going to go directly to streaming. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that if they go to streaming, they will be get DVD releases. The one I'm talking about actually did have a DVD release, and we do have it at the library. And it is called Vivarium, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg, definitely going against type, playing kind of a working class normal guy instead of a weird Mark Zuckerberg type. And Imogen Poots, who she has been in a lot. She's a British actress, and she's been in some movies I really enjoyed, like Black Christmas and Green Room. And so the gist of this movie is young couple in Britain goes house hunting. They go to this very strange development where everything looks the same. And all of a sudden, their realtor is gone, and they literally can't leave. I think it's a horror film that doesn't have gore, but plenty of existential dread and a, an allusion to a certain animal that kind of has parasitic relationships with other animals. I think it's a really inventive movie. My boyfriend and I watched it the other night, and we're like, could have shaved maybe 15 minutes off, but I think the concept is great, and it's really chilling. It's a movie that gets under your skin because there's so many unsettling things that just aren't answered. But I think it's great. So Vivarium, check it out. Next is a favorite of mine, Terry Zwigoff's Ghost World. I think this was on. I don't know if it was on Prime. It was maybe on Hulu for a bit, but I love this movie. This is an adaptation of Daniel Close's very famous graphic novel. It makes some changes, but it makes sense for the movie. It is about two alienated teen girls, but it takes the romanticization of it out and kind of gets into the more like, the, I guess I should say, consequences of alienation. It is quirky, not for the sake of being quirky, but it's kind of this movie where underneath everything there's a humanity to all these characters. Thora Birch is fantastic in this. So is Scarlett Johansson. Steve Buscemi is great in this, but I mean, really, when is Steve Buscemi not great? If you've never seen this movie, I'd highly recommend checking out. I think it is one of the best movie of the aughts. Um, and yeah, I do love watching it. There's a reason I upgraded my DVD to a Criterion. Up next, we're going a little kind of odd. I told you there'd be something odd here. Documentary, and it is called Stuffed. I know that sounds strange, but it is a documentary about people who do taxidermy, and it's really interesting. And it's something where, I mean, you see taxidermied animals a lot. You even see them at museums, and I always kind of looked at them and never really put much thought into how does this actually come together. And so it's about people who are just passionate about the subject. And I do think that if you are a talented filmmaker, you can make any subject interesting. I mean, Errol Morris has proven that. Go watch Gates of Heaven. See if that's streaming. Anyway, this is a documentary where you don't think it's interesting, turns out to be fascinating. And finally, for Prime, is a movie I absolutely love called Blowout. It is John Travolta. It is kind of boy meets girl. It's more like boy meets girl. Boy works on film and is trying to get B-roll of sounds, thinks he might have recorded a murder. Boy then meets the girl and finds out that she's actually potentially involved with this murder and has to keep her alive from John Lithgow. It is a great crime thriller. It's a political thriller. I mean, Brian De Palma, he's still making movies, but I think Brian De Palma's best period was from the mid 70s to the mid 80s. Like, that was when he was on fire and really trying to push the boundaries as to what film could do. He was experimenting with different ways, different types of filming, different types of, showing what can happen. He is a filmmaker that I really do unfortunately think has kind of lost. I don't know if he's lost his edge or just he is not made for this era of filmmaking. But man, if you want a great Brian De Palma run, like I would say, oh, I maybe even would say early 70s through the mid 80s. But man, Blowout is one of his best movies. Great performance from John Lithgow, obviously. Great John Travolta performance, too. I think a lot of people forget that yes, he can act. And also a really good performance from Nancy Allen, who I think she got an unfair end of the stick from a lot of people. I think they wrote her off as another pretty girl who can act, especially because she was involved with De Palma for a while. But I think she is a good actor. She's got a very down to earth quality to her that really works for her characters. And I mean, she's also in Carrie, where she plays the ultimate mean girl. So I'll love Nancy Allen forever. On to Hulu. So we have another new film out this week called Palm Springs. So this is it on its surface is a comedy. So it's a girl and her boyfriend. She's maid of honor at a wedding. They go to the destination, and then just stuff gets a little weird, and I'll kind of leave it there. But the two leads, Andy Samberg, who a lot of people know from stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Lonely Island, and Christine Milioti, who is best known as the mother on How I Met Your Mother, who then died. Actually, I know her best as her role as Abby. I think it was Abby Flynn on 30 Rock, but I am a 30 Rock encyclopedia. But yeah, check out Palm Springs. It's one of those movies that's so new, I kind of don't want to spoil anything. Up next, we're going to go a little older with Norma Rae. Sally Field, the film that won her her first Oscar, and I think we all remember the iconic scene of her just standing on the table with the union sign. Remember unions? So if you don't know what this is Sally Field plays Norma Rae, a woman who works at a textile factory, and after witnessing a lot of the, bad workplace conditions and the health issues that her colleagues are having, she tries to unionize. It's definitely one of those, like, especially that came out in the late 70s, that were about labor in America. The late 70s, kind of into the 80s, we had a lot of movies about that. They're not so much anymore, but that's more because Hollywood's focus has shifted. But I think it's a great piece of Americana cinema. Speaking of great American cinema, Moonstruck has, I think, moved from Prime to Hulu, but I love that movie so much I feel required to tell you whenever it's on any kind of streaming service. This is the movie that won Cher her Oscar, and I will always defend Cher, not just as an actress, but as a cultural institution. I love her. I've seen her live. She is an icon. But she's really great here. I think people, when they think of Cher, they think of like a very larger than life personality, and she does this in other movies too, like Silkwood and Mask. She really kind of downplays her characters, not to a detriment, but she doesn't play any of these characters as a diva. She plays them as human beings, and I think for as much as she's used to being this persona, as an actress, she is also really able to get to the heart of these characters and see who they are as real human people. So Moonstruck is just charming. I love that movie, and I love telling people to watch it. Up next, one of my guilty pleasures is big dumb action movies, and the remake of Poseidon with Kurt Russell is definitely a big dumb action movie. But it's summer. Summer is the time for spectacle. Summer is where we kind of want to turn our brain off and just watch some things blow up, or in this case, get flipped over by a rogue wave. It is a kind of ridiculously star-studded movie, but then again, so is the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, it's just strange for me to be like, man, Kurt Russell and Richard Dreyfuss in a boat in a disaster movie together. I mean, Richard Dreyfuss really doesn't have good luck with boats, but again, it is not a movie that'll be winning an award anytime soon, but I had fun watching it, and sometimes you just want movies like that. My final movie for today is a documentary, and unfortunately we're ending this on a downer note, but it is a subject I find fascinating, and it is called Truth and Lies, Jonestown. So if you don't know what Jonestown is, it was the cult commune run by Jim Jones, who is I hesitate to call him a preacher. At some point, you go past that and become like a cult leader. But over 900 people, some committed suicide, but many of them were murdered. Actually, the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" comes from that, and there are some relatives of people who died there who don't like that phrase because it makes people think that you willingly drink the Kool-Aid when, in fact, a lot of people were forced to drink it or unknowingly. Again, not a happy subject, but it is always been, it's something that fascinates me because I do kind of wonder, like, man, how do you get to that point? How does anyone get to the point where they are in a secluded commune, and if you're one of them, ready to just die for a demagogue? So it is it's a fascinating documentary. I think a lot of the ones that have been produced by, I would say, the mainstream news sources. I remember about 10 years ago there was one produced by CNN, which was really good. This one is, I believe, ABC News. I think they tend to not get too lurid into, I guess, like focused on the spectacle, but again, rather trying to dig into what really happened. I do like some true crime genres. My favorite one is The Does, like, how is someone unidentified for so many years? But I do sometimes find that the genre is almost too, almost ghoulishly focused on the gory details of someone's death. So I think this is an example of someone looking at this and doing it respectfully. Also, we do have a couple of good books here. Charles Gwynn. I'm unfortunately blanking on the title of it, but if you call the library and ask, I can look up the title and tell you which one it is. But very good book on Jonestown. So sorry to leave you at a downer note, but there are some happier movies that I recommended today if you want a lighter documentary watch stuff. So I will see you tomorrow with Freebie Friday, and thank you for watching.